Good morning, grade 3-4. We have some exciting stuff to be doing today. We are going to be looking at clocks and telling time. And I know many of you are pretty good at this. Some of us might find it a bit tricky, and that's a-okay. We are going to go over it so you have a bit more of a stronger understanding. So we're going to get started. And you can definitely follow along if you have a clock at home. Maybe ask for some permission first before using it. If not, that's all right. We're gonna make a clock too. And if you don't have the materials to make a clock, that's okay too. Just listen along so that you can become an expert on telling time. Here we go. So I got the clock from the wall, and this is the clock we're going to make, and we need to know some information about time before we can really dive on into it. So here's my clock. The most important thing to know are these lovely hands that are going around the clock. Some are moving faster than others. Some we can't even really see move. This real skinny hand here that's ticking and ticking and ticking and constantly moving, that is our second hand. And every tick it makes equals 1 second. So think of what would you do in 1 second. It has to be really fast because it's a tick. So like to snap your fingers once, that would be the time frame of a second. So the reason why it's called a second hand is because it counts the seconds. And when it makes its way all the way around the clock, that equals 1 minute. So we're going to look at it. As soon as it gets to the 12, we're going to start going around, and this next hand, this long hand, the minute hand, will actually move. So bit by bit, it's hard to see it, but once the second hand goes from the 12 all the way around this clock up to the 12 again, that is 1 minute. And that brings us to our minute hand here. This long, long, long hand is the minute hand. Let me hear you say it, grade 3-4. Minute hand. Minute hand. There you go. And it counts the minutes. So each of these ticks are minutes. And these big numbers around the clock, they help us because we can count by fives when we go around. So starting at the 1 would actually be starting at 5. So we go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So this minute hand, when it makes its way all the way around and back up to the top again, that means there's 60 minutes that went by. We just counted around our clock. Once we get back to the 12, 60 minutes would have gone by. And that means there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. And that brings us to this little hour hand. It points at the hour. So right now, does anyone know what time it is? Our hour hand is pointing at the 3, and our minute hand is basically at the top of the 12. That would mean it is 5. Ooh, that would mean, it is about 3 o'clock. Over here, let's review it one more time. 1 second would be the amount of time to snap our fingers. 60 seconds, and I abbreviated it, so shorthand from second to S, equals 1 minute. So if you count to 60, that would take 1 minute of your time. 60 minutes equals 1 hour. So an hour would be how long math class was when we were in the school. And if you have 24, H is for hours, if you have 24 hours, that's 1 day. That's your sleeping plus your activities. And if you put 7 days together, you get 1 full week. And if you have 4 weeks, it equals to 1 month. And 12 of those months equal to 1 full year. So here's our live clock. And it's ticking around. What's this ticking guy called? Second hand. Long hand is the minute hand. It's officially 3 o'clock because it's right on the 12. And it's pointing at the 3. Which hand is pointing at the 3? It is the hour hand that is pointing at the 3. And we talk about these big numbers all the way around. We go by 5s to help us tell time. We're going to make our very own clock out of 2 paper plates. And I got a spoon, 2 spoons, one I broke because hour hand is smaller, minute hand is larger, and we don't actually have a second hand, but we can still tell time with that. So with a marker, you're going to write the 12 at the top, 6 is at the bottom, and then 3 is to the side, 9 is to the other side, and then you fill in all those other numbers to get some correct spacing. Label a minute hand, label an hour hand. Right now, we are at 3 o'clock. So anytime your minute hand is pointing at this 12, we say it as o'clock. And the hour hand points at where the hour is of what time it is. And it kind of moves a bit. And you might find it in the middle here before it gets to 4. But hour hand points at the hour. When our minute hand points up at the 12, we say o'clock. When our minute hand moves and we're moving through the green, have the green there, and it lands at the 3. If we count by 5s to figure this out for the minute hand, how many minutes go by, it gives us 5, 10, 15. So at the 3, it's 15. So if we look at the time now, the hour hand's pointing at the 2, minute hand's at the 3, it'd be 2:15, which we could also say, when we're at the 3, it's at the 15, we can also say it is 2:15, because the hour hand is pointing at the 2, the minute hand has went down to the 3, which means 15 minutes, because the minutes we count by 5s, the hours are already there on the clock for us. They're the easy ones, but the minutes we count by 5, starting at the 1, 5, 10, 15, also known as quarter after. And our little plate underneath helps us with our counting. So that 12 is at the 60, the 1 is 5 minutes, the 2 is 10 minutes, and the 3 is 15 minutes. And it's also known as quarter after. If our minute hand keeps going around to the 4, that's 20 minutes, 25 minutes at the 5, and at the 6, it's another big important guy because it goes to 30 minutes. And you can double check by having your plate underneath. The 6 is 30 minutes. And we've also heard that as half past. So if our hour hand is still pointing at the 2 and our minute hand is at the 6, we can say it as if it was 2:30, but we could also say it is half past the hour of 2. It could be half past 2, and that's why the 6 is special. He gets to also be known as half past. So minute hands, to count the minutes, we count by 5s all around these big numbers. The hour hand, easy peasy, because it gives us the hour and the number right on the clock. It's just the minute hand that we have to pay attention to and realize we're counting by 5s when we get to each big number. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 is another special time, and I highlighted this part in pink because if our minute hand moves to the 9, we're still at the 2 for our hour hand, but if it moves to the 9, that means we can use another fancy phrase of quarter to. So that means it's 15 minutes to the next hour. And our next hour would be 3. So it'd be 2:45. 2:45 is used at the 9. So now we have some fancy clock lingo. We got o'clock at the 12. When our minute hand goes to the 3, it's quarter after. When our minute hand goes to the 6, it's half past the hour. when our minute hand goes to the 9, it is quarter to the next hour. And those are some fancy phrases, you may use when you are telling time. So you also will need to know how to write out that time. So if I say it's quarter after 2. Here we go, quarter after 2. I would write it as 2:15. You might see this time a lot as a digital time. Make sure you have your colon in the middle. The first part is your hour, and the second part is your minutes. And that's how it's written out if you were to write it down on paper. You could also say it is 12:15, or we can move our minute hand around and around till it gets to the 12. And you know what? Time has passed now. We're at 4 o'clock. There we go. This shows us 4 o'clock. 0 behind it, because we'd start at 0 at the 12 when we're counting by 5s and go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So minute hand is a tricky guy because you have to count by 5s around him. Hour hand, he points either in between or directly at his hour. So you can try making your clock. Point your hands at some different times, see if you can read that time, and then can you write out that time after you read it. We also have some fancy names to use. Try those out. Try it with a sibling, a parent, other family member. Call someone on the phone, ask them what time it is. And my challenge for you, grade 3-4 today, is to track down some different times. Look at the clock at different times, see if you can tell the time, and write it out. You can try making your own clock too. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you later.